this panel, we're wrapping up. We're going to talk about the importance of social media and how this panel will be using it. I'd like to introduce you to our panelists. We've got Jennifer Ferrero, who I think some of you are already familiar with. She is the president and CEO of SwitchUp Web. I've had the pleasure of working with her for, I think, about 7 or 8 years now, and I really value her expertise. The other person, and so Jennifer, why don't you just say a little bit about your company and
Great. Well, I've had SwitchUp Web and Marketing for about 5 years now, and we work for a lot of diverse companies. I mean, we could be working for a bakery and pest control business one day and working for Mary Kay or Barbara Hins-Turner the next day. So pretty diverse business. I've had 2 web companies actually, and also a little detour into consulting on websites with utility companies for a short time. So pretty varied background, but it's a pretty interesting dynamic industry.
Great, thanks. Next, we've got Ricardo Ibarra. He's the creative director of Trio Native American Enterprises. And so if you would please talk a little bit about your business.
Happily. Good morning, everyone. Trio NAE, or Trio Group. We have 2 companies, all under the same banner. Not a problem. We are a creative marketing and communications firm. We are a certified minority-owned firm with the National Minority Supplier Development Council. So we do work a lot with fellow minority business enterprises. We also do a lot of public agency work here in the Northwest with the City of Seattle and also King County. We specialize in the whole breadth of creative services. Great to be here.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm just going to start out the discussion and tell you a little bit about why I think Barbara Hins-Turner and Shana wanted me to talk about social media. They know that I use it quite a bit. We've got a Facebook, a blog, LinkedIn account, Twitter account, and we also use e-newsletters. Now, not that that's social media, but we're going to talk a little bit about how I use the other social media to pump out the e-newsletter. My particular favorites are tweet. I like to tweet and use Twitter quite a bit. And I use the Twitter account when I go on conferences, when I'm attending a meeting, and use the hashtag quite a bit so that others can follow me based on the hashtag and what type of information or so that it categorizes that so people can look it up by a hashtag. It's very quick, it's very easy, and I find that it's used a lot more by business to business. We've had our Facebook page probably, I would say, the last 6 or 7 years. And the look and feel of all of our accounts, whether it's the Twitter account, the LinkedIn account, or the blog and Facebook, all have the same look and feel, and that's thanks to our communications specialist, Jennifer, about talking about the importance of branding. So, I hope you'll kind of earmark that a little bit and talk about if you've got questions about how important branding is. So think about Nike, Microsoft. You know that by the brand. The look and feel is the same. The COE has invested increasingly in its electronic web and blog presence dating back to 2009. And in the past year, we have seen a steady improvement in our return on investment because of this, and we truly have, because we're tracking it using Google Analytics. Overall, it appears that the Center of Excellence blog has recorded, just in this last year, a 20% increase in our visitors. 191% increase in the number of posts, and 25% increase in its visits among key countries, mostly the United States, the UK, India, and Canada. In addition, the number of actual website users appears to be up over 40%. So, I mean, those are big numbers for us, being that we're a very small, smallly staffed program. Our number of website users appears to be up over 40% over 2013, and the number of likes on our Facebook is up by 68%. And I really believe that that is because we're using multimedia, multiple different uses of social media. And Twitter is one of them because I can tweet, and using the Hootsuite, it posts automatically to my blog and my Facebook account with just one click of a button. Because the COE is so very small and relies heavily on outside web consultants to support and monitor our activity, it's really important that that information is shared publicly, because we need to report that not only to our stakeholders, but the state board and now legislatures. So I'd like to open this up a little bit, and Jennifer, I'm going to ask you first, please. Can you please lay the groundwork regarding social media channels and demographics?
Absolutely. I'd like to share a little bit about the demographics of some of the social media channels, but before I do that, I would love to share with you some things that are on my radar in owning a website and marketing company, because I think that social media is one piece of overall marketing, but there's a lot of other things that you should be aware of in your operations when it comes to your overall brand marketing and your outbound and inbound marketing. So we're concerned about websites and points of conversion on the website. So that means driving people to a website to accomplish a task. Search engine optimization, which is something that's probably the number one thing people ask us about every day. Online advertising and Google AdWords, mobile responsiveness of websites, which, by the way, and maybe you were thinking of sharing this too, that maybe a lot of you know this, but Google is now demoting sites that are not mobily responsive. So boy, has the phone been ringing lately at our business. How can we get a mobile responsive site? So that's a big thing. We're also looking at user testing and usability. So again, social media is one part of this puzzle. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. When you're talking about outbound marketing, that's sort of your more traditional marketing as far as pushing out information to people and your audiences and stakeholders. Now, what we're focused on a lot now is inbound marketing, and that's really that natural, well, we'll call it the search to find information. So when people go to Google, if you're doing things correctly, people are finding your good quality content naturally. And that's really what you'd like people to be able to do, is that you're publishing good quality content routinely, and people search for it and then find you, and that you're coming up in searches. So that's something that we're focused on. So when you're talking about social media, you could be talking about Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, Vine. I always love that ad. There's a girl that gets a new phone and she's like, well, Dad, we could pin tweet that. I love that ad. It's funny. But let's talk a little bit about some of the more business-oriented tools real quick. Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram are more skewed toward women users. I mean, certainly men are using them, but women do rank or have a higher percentage of use. 76% of adult women are using Facebook. 84% of those are aged 18 to 29. 79% are aged 30 to 49. 66% of adult men are on Facebook. Twitter is more male-driven, with 24% of adult males tweeting in 2014, and then 21% of adult women. So still, again, not too much disparity there, but more men than women. Twitter is more popular with college-educated folks and urbanites. 26% of online adults are using Instagram, and that is more popular with urban or suburban environments as well. LinkedIn is probably one of my favorite tools and the one that we recommend the most to businesses. And so if you're using it correctly, you can really get a lot of bang for your buck on LinkedIn. Let's see here. Out of all internet users in 2014, 28% were on LinkedIn. Male and female use is comparable. Age-wise, LinkedIn users tend to be more in their career building ages. So you might see more age 30 to 64 are using LinkedIn. And then Instagram has become huge, of course, with the teenagers, and as well as Snapchat. You're probably hearing about that from the teens. They like the visual approach. So 83% of US teens in wealthy households, as it's measured, were on Instagram, which is sort of interesting. So kind of just a few stats for you on what's going on with social media.
Great, thank you so much. So Ricardo, please tell us the best uses of social media in a business application. How can it be leveraged to generate leads or sales goals?
Absolutely. So I like to consult clients and remind them that social media is kind of like a cocktail party. Building on what Jennifer mentioned earlier about the difference between inbound and outbound marketing. If outbound marketing is traditional marketing with ad campaigns in your paper or TV spots or radio ads, that's kind of like what I'm doing right now. It's you speaking to a large group of people. Now, if you think of social media as a cocktail party, it's a one-to-one connection. So social media is great for building brand awareness, just getting people to see what you're doing online, and also for nurturing leads. Once you have that relationship established, staying in constant contact with those individuals with valuable content, things that are insightful, interesting, maybe even a little funny or humorous. So those are kind of the top two aspects of social media that I recommend. And you notice that they're kind of at the top of the marketing funnel, if you think about it. You don't want to imagine social media doing all the heavy hitting of selling your products, because no one goes to a cocktail party to get sold to. It's not a personal connection. So think of social media as brand awareness at the very top, folks just getting eyeballs on you, maybe seeing in passing, oh, they're doing this neat project in my local neighborhood, or oh, they're investing in this local community group. That's great brand awareness. And then the next is the lead nurturing, where you're just reminding folks, hey, we're here, we're valuable, and this is our story.
Wonderful. One thing I might add about why I really favor Twitter is its real-time news in very short blurbs. The most you can post is 140 characters, including your photo. So if you see that news feed coming through, it is up-to-date information. And I have a story to tell you. I don't have enough time to share it here, but it has to do with the Boston Marathon. I was in a hospital room with my father in Missoula, Montana, and I knew before CNN reported that they had found the suspect in the boat with the address before it was reported on CNN, and I got it off of Twitter.
That's a great story.
Yeah. So back to business. Jennifer, if you could please tell us, what do you advise your business customers regarding social media?
Absolutely. A lot of times people come in, and I'm sure they deal with you too, and they say, well, should we get on this tool and this tool and this tool? And I always say, it really depends on how many resources you have. Number one, investing in social media is just that. It's an investment of time and resources. It's having perhaps a staff person or a communications specialist who is dedicated to be able to post news and information and be consistent with it. And so, again, typically, I don't recommend that they use all tools. We take a look at who are their audiences, what do we need to communicate to those audiences, what would the audience expectations be, and ultimately, how can we build the brand awareness? So if it's a bakery, I might say, yes, Facebook would be a great place to go because it's the business to consumer market, and you can give away cupcakes on Friday, and people will get excited and come into your bakery and buy cakes. So that might be a good approach. But if you're a nonprofit organization or you're in education, I would say really building more outreach through other tools is a better way to go. So for example, LinkedIn, again, it's a business-to-business approach. You can make your connections. So then I suggest to folks maybe investing in building out your LinkedIn company page. But you don't have to be everything to everyone. One thing I would caution about is if you invest a lot in your social media presence and building out the social media pages, make sure people have a good place to go to get the reliable information once you send them somewhere. Make sure they're not going out to a poorly planned website that does not have good content in it if they happen to follow that link, because then you've just wasted their time, basically. So that's why it really is important to start with make sure you build your infrastructure, and then work on the social media and that consistent branding. That's probably more important than trying to be in every, trying to post to Instagram every day, tweet, and post to Facebook.
That's great advice. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. What you want to do is you want to remember that social media is not your owned media property. Facebook owns that, Twitter owns that, LinkedIn owns that. Lots of folks complain about how Facebook is always tweaking their algorithm. So if you're directing folks to your own website where you're producing great content, or your blog, or your press releases, you're in control of that, always. It's always on your website. So social media can point folks there, and it can raise their awareness of that, and you can interact with them on that one-to-one matter. You can break news on your Twitter feed. But sending folks to your website, which is, of course, mobile friendly, is the best way to go, because you'll always be in control of that. And you can sell, you can talk more about yourself, you can tell better stories, you have more options on your owned media properties, your website.
So I'd like to give another example of that. So way back when, several years ago, we were responsible for having e-newsletters, and we'd either send it out through Constant Contact or a link in an email. And Constant Contact is just one of those types of services, but you're able to see who opens it and when. And we were realizing we were sending out to over hundreds of people, yet they weren't opening it up. And that was really discouraging, because a lot of money was spent on creating those e-newsletters. And so then we decided, well, what if we start tweeting different stories or blogging about different stories? And we found that that then generates the issue, and it drives them back to our website, which is hosting the e-newsletter, which also counts for, hits back onto your website. So.
And I might add to that a little bit, and I actually just thought of this particular example, but Don Carver was here with the Spokane Area Workforce Development Council yesterday, and my agency's been working with them recently, and they had a newsletter they were sending out, and again, sometimes these newsletters are sort of mandated by your organization to get them out, but the readership was way down. It was like 11% or something of people were actually looking at that, and so we were tasked with finding a way to increase the readership. So what we did is we came up with a series of infographics that communicate about workforce development in this greater Spokane area. And so these are visual pictures, and now we put those at the top of the newsletter so you have a visual right away, and then we have a couple quick stories, and we decided consciously we'll do these 250 word stories. They'll be brief and to the point and very focused on a topic per newsletter. So one month we might have manufacturing, the next month might be about transportation. Well, that has increased the readership tremendously. Now, I would say newsletters are still a little bit of a challenge because people are oversaturated with content for the most part, and so it's always like, I'm going to read that later is what happens, and I'm sure you all do it. But just adding the visuals to the newsletter did increase the readership to about 30%, which is significantly better, and so we're still working on that. But that's just a little ideas. More visuals are always better today.
So this is a great segue. Ricardo, could you elaborate just a little bit more then and distinguish what do you post, how do you use your social media for different networks are different to different people, educators, businesses, nonprofits. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So Jennifer's story is a great one because I guarantee what she did there is she took this kind of stodgy corporate newsletter that was all about that business or about that corporation, and she shifted the narrative to stories that were interesting to their target market, to their stakeholders, the people that they were trying to reach. They went from, oh, here's a press release about an award we got. which is nice for the company, but the people who you want to do business with or who you want to care about your organization, that's just a drop in the bucket. By shifting to these great infographics, she's providing real valuable information to her audience. So my general rule of thumb is the 80-20 rule. 80% of what you post on social media, and in fact, all the content that you're posting online, should be of direct value to your stakeholders. Only 20% should be about you. Because going back to the cocktail party analogy, man, you walk up to someone and all they do is talk about themselves, you're gonna exit and go back to the buffet line real quickly. But you start providing real concrete value to your customers and they start looking at you in a new light, not only as a subject matter expert, which you all are in your respective fields and your respective industries, but also you start building those foundations of a personal connection so that they know they can contact you on LinkedIn with a question. Or maybe they'll just chime into the conversation when you release, say, a mini report on trends in your industry, and they may say, oh, well, you know what, I just did X, Y, and Z. So let's see, some strategic thoughts. Generating content, and you notice we've been saying content a lot because it all comes down to content. Think about, for example, like what are the top 10 most frequently asked questions by your stakeholders, and answer those. What is something that your stakeholders aren't asking you but they should? What are they missing? What's an insider secret or an insider tip? What's a behind the scenes scoop on what you're doing? And then, of course, also think about the human stories, because we all emote, we all make emotional decisions before we make rational decisions. So tell stories about what you're doing and how it helps people. Or, in lesser degrees, how not doing what you're doing could hurt people. Of course, you want to keep the negative stuff to a bare minimum, but think of those emotional stories and how you can connect with someone when you're talking about what you're doing and what you really care about. Because I know every one of you in this room, if I start talking to you and you and you about what you do, there's going to be passion in your eyes. So the trick is to find those stories and to tell them online, because people resonate with that on social media.
And if you're in a management position and you have someone managing your social media, managing your stories, make sure to spend time with them to share how you're feeling about things and what's going on, because they can't tell the story unless you share this passion that you have with them so that they can go ahead and write about it.
That's a really great point. Another thing too is it's good to be professional on social media, but don't be corporate. Because no one wants to talk to a logo.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's really important to use the first person or the third person voice. Use I and we. Mm-hmm. Share stories about your board members and your employees and your fellow customers. Invite your customers to create content for you. For example, if you're doing a residential solar, ask folks to send you a picture of their new solar installation and post it on your Facebook account or Instagram or whatever network you feel most reaches that target audience. But keep it personal and keep it very relatable. You can even, if you have a dedicated social media coordinator or just one person on staff, put their name in the bio of your account. So on your Twitter account, you get a few, sentences where you can say, XYZ company specializes in commercial solar installation, blah, 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 managed by communications director Ruth. Or on your Facebook page, make it personal and let those people speak from their own experience. And like Jennifer suggests, make sure that the whole organization is on board with this strategy, because you can't make that person an island trying to speak for the whole company if they're not intimately aware of what's going on.
So I see that President Langrell is in the audience, and I have to say he is an awesome user of Twitter, and he does exactly what you say. He always highlights other people, students, faculty, Bates sports teams, and those are interesting tidbits that I think generate a lot of interest, but more importantly, it shows that he cares about the people and the faculty of Bates Technical College. So I'm a big follower of President Langrell's. Well, you know what? Unfortunately, that's about as much time as we have allowed. I just want to share with you, and if you have questions. But first, help me thank our panelists here. They were awesome. So just yesterday in USA Today, in Money, the Money section, the hottest digital trends. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is relevant to what we're talking about. So Mary Meeker, who is widely anticipated, the Internet Trends Report, she's kind of the guru on this. Her first report was published in 1995 when 30 million users were online. Now there's 2.8 billion Internet users. During the same time frame, mobile use has gone from 80 million or 1% penetration of the population to 5.2 billion or 73% penetration. So they've got some interesting social media leaders, what we were just talking about. But here's what's interesting. In 2008, the total hours that adult users used on mobile devices was 2.7 hours, 2008. Do you want to guess where it's at for 2014? Adult users. These aren't the kids. These are you and I. 5.3 hours a day. So that includes mobile, desktop, laptop, and other devices. I was telling Jennifer that my daughter, who's 23, and she was one of those that we said, you cannot bring your cell phone to the dinner table. She now has an app that helps her not use her phone so much. Seriously, you can grow a tree, and you nurture it by not using your cell phone. I mean, what is that? So I hope you enjoyed this panel discussion.